Well, welcome to this latest episode of Actually Olympia, the podcast. As always, I'm your host, Jay Burney, the city manager, and with me is my co-host, Stacey Ray.
Hi, Jay. Glad to be here.
Well, thank you, Stacey. Good to see you. And I'm really excited about our podcast today because we have with us our new police chief, Shelby Parker. Welcome, Shelby.
Thank you.
So it's super excited to have you in the role of police chief. It's one of my proudest moments is doing your oath of office ceremony and welcoming you in as the new police chief a couple council meetings ago. And we're here just today to kind of talk more with you about the future of the police department and kind of your role as the chief and what you see as the vision for the department, all that good stuff.
Sounds great.
So, the way I like to start these with our guests is talking about your origin story. So everyone has an origin story of how they got into the work that they do. And I like to think of our employees as superheroes. And all superheroes have an origin story. So talk to us a bit about your origin story. How are you here as our chief of police? And what happened in your life that got you to this place?
Thank you for having me here today first. And my family, truly, my mom and my dad are at the root of who I am as a professional. So I was raised in a small business where my parents worked tirelessly and they had a tremendous work ethic, and it was all revolved around customer service. And that really laid a foundation for who I am and who I continue to become as a professional as I grew up. So I went to the University of Washington, where I studied anthropology and art history, and I took an elective course where I learned about policing. And the moment I learned about policing, I really was hooked, and in a unique way. I was hooked because I learned about some of the challenges and some of the things that needed to be addressed and fixed. And I thought, I want to be a part of really reimagining law enforcement. And so I applied to the Olympia Police Department and was very fortunate to get hired back in 2003. And my work ethic and deep interest in customer service, it's just been the foundation of my entire career.
That's awesome. I've got 4 years on you because I started in 99. So you started in 2003. But you've been with us a long time and you've kind of come up through the ranks.
I have. I've held a lot of different positions in the police department. It's been an incredible journey. I was taught early in my policing journey that you would need to break up your career and have lots of different experiences. Otherwise, the goal of a 30-year career can be a very long one. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I had some fantastic mentors and police officers, and they helped me explore the options. So after being a police officer, patrol officer for a few years, I entered our traffic investigation division. And I was the first woman officer to ride our 1,000-pound Harley-Davidson motorcycles. And that was an incredible experience. And I investigated serious injury and fatality collisions, as well as really deepened my passion for impaired driving enforcement. So there were many, many specialties after that. Back to the patrol division, I became a fair and impartial policing instructor, a Blue Courage instructor, a drug recognition expert, a field training officer. Ultimately, I became a detective where I investigated crimes against children and promoted to sergeant and had an amazing opportunity to be the sergeant of our walking patrol division downtown. And that was very rewarding work, liaising with our businesses and bringing wellness to some folks who really need it. And then entered administration as a deputy chief, and thank you for the opportunity to now be chief of police.
Yeah, no thanks needed. It's you've earned this spot, and we're lucky to have you.
Thank you.
Well, let's talk about what makes you passionate about law enforcement. So, as you've just talked about your career in the police department, share some examples of experiences that have been really impactful to you that kind of get at why you're so passionate about law enforcement.
I'll try to keep my examples uplifting because truly a lot of my examples are very, very hard moments in our community. But the reason why they resonate with me is because it's all about people. And our very best police officers have a deep love for people in our community, helping them on their very worst days. Unfortunately, law enforcement officers have a tendency to meet people on those challenging days, those bad days. But how we interact with folks can really take that from being a bad day, and it can make it a little bit better. We can see people, treat them with empathy and respect, help them understand the why behind what we're doing and the way that we're doing it. And so they walk away from that experience, hopefully a little bit better than when we first encountered them.
So you talked a little bit, Chief, about the different roles you've played in the Olympia Police Department, and they are many. So, but is there one or two that you want to highlight that have really contributed to your development as a leader?
Absolutely, being the sergeant of the downtown walking patrol, it was such an incredibly special experience. It's being a part of a small team. So really being able to develop relationships with each of my officers, understand what their motivations are, and really lean into their strengths as we serve the community. Also developing relationships with business owners, stakeholders, figuring out what their unique needs are and how we can better serve them, while also balancing the needs of the folks who are visiting, living downtown, and partnering with our crisis response unit and our familiar face navigators. It takes a number of incredibly talented individuals to partner and keep this community safe.
Yeah. You know, as I think about all the roles you've played and kind of what you've seen from your lens, how do you see the Olympia Police Department in terms of the role that they play in this community? I mean, we get lots of questions from the community about what is the role of the police department, and how do you see the role of the police department in the city of Olympia?
I really believe in our vision, which is a safe and vibrant community for all. And that's truly what we seek to manifest. First and foremost, public safety. So making sure that people who live, work, and play in Olympia are safe. But more than that, that people understand that at the Olympia Police Department, we meet individuals' needs around public safety, that we understand that everybody has a unique history and a unique sense of self, and making sure that we're partnering and treating people in a way that they feel seen, heard, and valued.
You know, we talk a lot too about bringing the right resource to the situation. You talk about, you mentioned earlier about meeting people where they are. And sometimes that's really about what is the right response. So we have a lot of different models for how we respond. And maybe you could talk just a little bit about some of those models.
Absolutely. I'd like to frame it around my journey with Olympia. So starting in 2003, when I began, we had police officers to respond and we had firefighters. And those were the first responders in the city of Olympia. And it was really exciting to be a part of the process of bringing new responders on board. So we brought on crisis responders who are non-police officers, non-uniformed individuals who can help folks in the community in an alternative way. So rather than coming with all of the knowledge, skills, and abilities that a police officer has, they have knowledge, skills, and abilities around mental health, behavioral health, wellness, and they can really help right-size the response for our community. We also have our familiar face peer navigators, who are incredible individuals who have lived experience, and they really walk hand in hand with our highest utilizers of police and fire services. They're incredible. I would also add that we have our housing and homeless response team. Again, when I started, we had police and we had fire. And we needed so much more. And in Olympia, we've really leaned into a much broader response to serving the needs of our community.
So I know, having spent time with you and other members of our department, that what I think about our police department staff and our officers, they're extraordinary problem solvers. I don't know if many people realize that. They will go to great lengths to solve a problem, whether it's connecting someone with a resource or trying to understand what happened in a certain situation. They're phenomenal at that. But what do you think is important for community members to know about our Olympia Police Department officers?
That they are deeply committed to public safety and to making sure that people feel safe in the city of Olympia. And they do that by being incredibly unique individuals. We have such a diverse police department. We have spouses, brothers, sisters, you name it. Everybody fills a different space, whether it be in a familiar way or within their community. We have folks who served in the military, bankers, salespeople. I myself was a sandwich artist at one point in my life. So we all come with these unique skills and abilities, and it helps us meet our community where they're at and really have unique ways of interacting.
I was a burger artist
Oh, very
at one point in time in my life. Stacey?
Elmer's Pancake and Steakhouse.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Host.
But I think that's to your point. I mean, just about all of us in public service, have a different background and way we got here. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's that diversity of thought and background of the individuals within not just your department, but then the organization that helps us make sure that we're thinking about everything from the right angles in the right places.
And so just like we have officers that have very different backgrounds, we also have community members that have very different needs, right? Very different stories, very different experiences. So how do you help ensure the department is responsive to the community's needs?
Really by leaning in around relationships and conversations. I am open and available to anybody in the community that would like to have conversations. I make sure that I'm available to meet with different stakeholders and community groups, whether it be faith groups or organizations. And we've also done a lot of work as a city with a lot of different boards, whether it's our community policing board, we've engaged in a reimagining public safety process. We have our social justice and equity commission. We also have an independent police auditor. So we have lots of different ways to make sure that different folks in our community have ways to be heard, to bring their voice forward, and to make sure that we're hearing their needs as a police department.
So you've talked a bit about, over the course of your career, some of the changes, that you've seen in policing over the course of your career. What's the most notable shift and change in policing that you've seen in your career?
I really believe the alternative response programs, again, when I started, it was police and fire, and those were the only first responders. Yeah. And now we have such a depth to the response that we can offer community. Even in terms of our clean team, we used to have folks in the community calling dispatch, and that was their complaint, is that there might have been some refuse or concern in an area. So dispatch was really taking a variety of calls, where now we've created better responses for our community. You spoke earlier, Stacey, about the fact that police officers are incredible problem solvers. So it really makes sense to me that in the community, we relied on police for so much because we are incredible problem solvers. But really, whether we have the ability to solve the problem or not, it makes sense that we would look to who else can solve those problems and how it can be done a little bit differently.
Yeah. So I think, we all know that policing can be a very challenging career. It is always changing, and lots of our community members have different, experiences and different ideas about what policing is. I'm curious from your vantage point, what challenges exist today in the profession, and how do those show up for you in your role, as a leader, as chief of the department?
Certainly, one of the biggest challenges that we're experiencing as a nation right now around law enforcement is staffing. We're really struggling as a nation to bring folks into this profession who have a deep sense of duty that they owe to their community, or they feel that they owe it to their community, and are willing to sacrifice so much in the service of their community. So in the city of Olympia, we entered 2025 with 15 vacant positions, and we hired 15 individuals, which should have taken us to full staffing. However, with attrition, folks being hired and coming into the community, the policing community, and realizing that this profession isn't in fact for them and leaving, we then entered 2026 again with 15 vacant positions. And so we are hiring just nonstop. It's a very challenging thing to do because we refuse to lower our standards. We keep our standards incredibly high. And it's a long process to become a police officer, not only from applying and testing, but also in completing your training. It takes about 1 year from the time that somebody applies to be a police officer until they're positively impacting staffing out in the community. It's very challenging.
And if I ask a follow-up, what are some of those kind of characteristics, that you're looking for when you're looking to hire new officers?
Integrity. It's first and foremost. We understand that everybody has made mistakes, but number one, can they acknowledge all the mistakes that they've made? Because that's the hiring process. You have to lay out everything that you've done in your life, the good, the bad, the questionable, and we're going to go through a process of verifying that information. And inevitably, throughout the process, some folks didn't come forward with this information, and we find out the truth through our thorough background and screening process. And if you lie in that process, you are going to be removed from it. So integrity first and foremost, but also that problem-solving ability. We get phone calls for everything in the community, whether it be a question about pets or relationship status. There's truly very few questions that we haven't been asked in policing, and you have to have a little bit of knowledge about everything. You certainly have to know where you can find the answers to all of the questions. And so that problem solving is critical, and it comes with an element of creativity. And also emotional intelligence. We talk about emotional intelligence a lot in our police training, especially in our leadership training, that it's almost more important than standard, just textbook intelligence.
Yeah.
Because being able to read somebody's emotions, being able to engage in de-escalation, and understand that a lot of folks in crisis, they're going to be mirroring off of the emotions that you bring to a call. So if we're regulated and we're aware of how we're conducting ourselves, we can really help the person that we're trying to help who's in crisis by just regulating our own emotions.
Yeah. You mentioned, police officers in emotionally charged situations, which they find themselves in a lot. And, our officers are exposed to a lot of difficult situations every day as part of their work. And we know about mental health and wellness for first responders has really evolved over the past decade or so in terms of our need to acknowledge the stresses and the mental stresses that our officers are under and make sure we're taking care of them. So how do we address the needs of the health and wellness of our department's officers and your staff?
This has absolutely been one of the biggest changes in my time in the profession is knowledge and awareness around mental health for officers, for first responders in general. So at Olympia, I am so proud of the work that we've done. We have a robust peer support team comprised of about 14 commissioned and non-commissioned members who have advanced training and learning how to support their peers. We also have a contract with mental health professionals that give us access not only to professionals in moments of crisis, but also 10 free sessions for every single member with a culturally competent mental health provider. And that culturally competent piece is really important. Yeah. Unfortunately, first responders learn that we need to be able to talk to professionals, but sometimes when we go and talk to them, we can tell that we're creating trauma for them. And so the company that we work with, every single mental health provider is vetted to ensure that they are culturally competent for first responders. So we can really lean into those conversations knowing that they can handle the trauma that we're processing. We also have done some work around physical health and well-being. So we have a contract with a company who helps us get very quick access to physicians, physical therapy, imaging, and so our officers and professional staff's bodies are well. We received a grant from the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs that allowed us to bring in a company to really take a look at our employees' cardiovascular health. We know that heart disease is the number one killer of law enforcement officers. So we're taking a deep look into how their bodies are doing and making sure that if there's anything that they can do with knowledge and information to change the trajectory that their body's on, that we can help empower them.
Well, I really appreciate the work that you and your team have done here. This is really important to me, to make sure that all the work we do in our departments takes care of the people who are taking care of our community. And in this case, again, as I started with, these are really challenging jobs with challenging outcomes at times. And so making sure that we're taking care of our first responders is really important. So just thank you, Chief, for all the work that you have done. your team has done.
Thank you. It's a piece I'm really passionate about. We have more work to do, and I'm excited to lean in and make sure that all of our members know that we're deeply committed to their well-being and committed to continuing to change the culture, that it is absolutely healthy to reach out and ask for help.
Yeah.
So we know since you were named interim, I know you just have really jumped all in on hiring, right? Because you talked about the challenges of hiring. And so you have been really creative in your thinking about how to hire and attract new applicants. And then you just talked about kind of a real emphasis and passion for you around health and wellness. Are there if you want to expand on those, or are there other priorities that you're really wanting to dig into in these first, 1 to 3 years?
In the next 1 to 3 years, as you mentioned, staffing, we absolutely have a vision of being fully staffed, and I'm committed to realizing that. I believe it's absolutely possible. By accomplishing full staffing, we'll be able to staff all of our specialty units and really serve the community in the way that we deeply, deeply want to. Mm-hmm. Beyond staffing, relationships, really leaning in and continuing to create relationships with our community, making sure that folks who have questions that want to be a part of the way that we police in Olympia and having a voice and influence of that are heard. So I look forward to meeting more folks in the community. I look forward to continuing working on the city's reimagining public safety goals, as well as continuing to implement the department's strategic plan. We have a lot of great work that we can do there. And I look forward to leveraging and exploring technology with our community's collaboration. We've learned that we need to do this in partnership. It absolutely is part of the future of policing, as technology is becoming a part of everything that we do in general. But I can see that law enforcement is changing.
So, you just talked about working with the community. Mm-hmm. So we're just going to segue right into that because, I know from having watched you over the past year, you spent a lot of time with community groups, like being in dialogue and being in conversation. So what other opportunities for partnering in the community do you see? And maybe if you want to highlight some of the connections that you've made thus far that you have been particularly impactful.
Certainly. Our neighborhood policing unit is just an exceptional unit that engages with a lot of different stakeholders in the community. They will go to schools and talk to children, answer questions about public safety. They'll conduct surveys, CPTED surveys for businesses to see if there's a way that they can improve their sight lines and safety around their businesses. They also engage with a lot of neighborhood associations and groups. So on team levels, we're doing that work. And then at higher levels, the senior leadership team is regularly working with different stakeholders and community groups. As chief, I really am enjoying meeting folks and talking with them, learning about their visions, their challenges, their questions. What I'm finding is that by engaging with folks and just having great conversations, there's so much that we're doing within the police department and as a city as a whole that folks just aren't aware of. And so by engaging in these moments, whether it be over coffee or just a one hour quick conversation, we're able to bring a lot of clarity to one another's understanding of the city and what we're doing. To highlight a few of those relationships, I had an exceptional opportunity to go to the Islamic Center of Olympia, spent several hours just being in community, and it was an excellent experience. We talked a lot about immigration. Our community has a lot of questions around immigration, what the city is doing, how we're collaborating, whether we partner with federal immigration, which we do not. And answering those questions has been good. It's brought a lot of peace and comfort to our community members. I've been working with a lot of our faith communities. So the San Juan St. John Episcopal Church, Temple Beth Hatfield, and upcoming we have a great meeting with Interfaith Works with some of our regional partners in law enforcement. I'm looking forward to that dialogue. Also, different community groups, PFLAG. We had a great meeting with the NAACP and multiple neighborhood associations. So the conversations continue.
Well, it's really been a hallmark of your career, Chief, I've watched you all along the way at every stop, every position, build relationships, just authentic relationships with people and community in particular. And I think it's what makes you so successful in the role that you have, is that you connect with people in a genuine way and they feel that. And I think that is a skill set that not everyone has, but I'm glad that our chief has it. So just thanks for all the work that you do to just build community and build relationships with people.
Thank you. I love interacting with folks. It's just so fun to learn more about people and their perspectives, and to really share more about what we do within the Olympia Police Department, and really explaining the why. That's, I think, the biggest takeaway in my career, is that when folks understand why we do what we do and how we do it, it just brings clarity.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, we've talked a bit about your journey and kind of how you've seen things evolve over your time. So let's fast forward 5 to 10 years out. What's policing look like in our community, and how do you see priorities shifting over the next 5 to 10 years?
I see the city really continuing to lean into alternative responses. We were so far ahead of the nation with our crisis response unit and our peer navigators, and I see us really leaning into that work and continually evaluating how we can use those professionals in spaces where maybe traditionally we've thought that it wasn't safe to do so. So much more collaboration. I see more technology coming into policing. I had an amazing opportunity to attend the FBI's National Academy for police executives. Yeah. It's pretty special. About 1% of law enforcement officers in the nation get to attend this academy. Incredible.
Yeah.
And it became apparent, just technology it's here and we're moving forward with it, but we have to do it deliberately, and we have to do it in partner with our community. In policing, we very much have a foundational belief that our power that we have, it's on loan to us from our communities, from our people. So everything that we do, we have to do with their blessing. Yeah. And so we'll lean into that.
It's funny. I agree with you 100%. The technology is probably going to drive the day. And the reason I say that is I just think about the advancements since I've just been here at the city of Olympia. So I started in 99. When I started in 99, not everyone had email. Outlook wasn't a thing. We had this green screen where you could kind of insta message somebody. It wasn't really effective. There was one fax machine. It was at City Hall, and you had to make an appointment to go use it, right? And so, now email is this thing that's just part of our everyday lives, and fax machines are pretty much obsolete. Like, people don't use them hardly anymore. You're scanning things in and sending them. So, not just in the police department, but I just citywide, when I think about the advances in technology and kind of where we're going, we've only just scratched the surface of what we know and what we think is coming.
It's so true. When I started, we didn't have body-worn cameras. We didn't have mobile audio video in our patrol cars. Now we have the ability to really see what's happening in the field. We have the ability for our supervisors in a critical incident to be able to see what's happening on their officers' body-worn cameras to really direct resources. So when we're thinking about how we can allocate resources when they're finite, technology really gives us the ability to do that.
So, Chief, we have a really robust system of law enforcement accountability here in Olympia. We have both a police auditor, as you mentioned, and a community policing board. So can you talk a little bit about the importance of having those systems in place and why that's meaningful both for the department but also the community?
We talked about earlier that the professionals that work for the Olympia Police Department are deeply committed to serving our community. And in order to best do that, we need somebody to be evaluating the work that we're doing. We are so busy responding to calls for service that sometimes it's helpful to have the community come in and say, we have a question about this particular call. Why did this happen? Why did it happen this way? And there's value in us as professionals exploring what happened on a call, what the outcome was, how we could have done it better. We have always engaged in a practice of after action reviews. So after we go on a call in the community, what could have gone better? Even if it was a really great outcome, we can always learn something. And these processes really help us continue to refine the way that we're policing, make sure that we're meeting the needs of the community, and also engaging the community in dialogue. I spoke earlier about understanding the why behind things. And when we have that ability to interact with our community, tell them why we did things and why we did it a specific way, and then also listen. When the community says, okay, Chief, I heard why you did that, but have you considered that we could do it a different way? And there's value in us having that diversity of thought informing the way that we police.
Well, because it's really about accountability, but it's also about transparency,
Yes.
right? We want our community to feel confident in the work of our police department
Absolutely.
and the work that your team does in serving this community.
Absolutely.
So we get officers that come to us brand new. We also get them that have had other careers or they come from other departments. And so I think for you, Chief, what might you say to someone who may be considering a career in law enforcement here in Olympia?
I hope it's been evident throughout this interview that I both love the city of Olympia and I love the Olympia Police Department. I also love policing. I truly believe that this job is the very best job that was ever created. Sorry, city manager and assistant city manager, but it's just the truth.
Yeah.
We get to help people. What better job is there? When we talk about superheroes, police officers, in my mind, are as close as we can get to superheroes. They get to go and they get to help people in their most dire moments. And that can look different. It's really relative. And so for somebody who hasn't ever had an interface with the criminal justice system, it may be that their vehicle was just prowled. And it may be that all of the Christmas presents that they had in the trunk were stolen. And an officer being able to respond in that moment and to be able to read with emotional intelligence just how impactful this moment is for that community member and to be able to help them to the best of their ability, that's a superhero moment.
Yeah.
Now, we can talk about the extreme calls, and again, they're very real and they happen in our community and they have big impacts on our officers. But as the officers navigate their trauma, they can really focus on they were the hero in that moment. They were the difference between somebody being able to go on and live their life healthy and well versus maybe not. And that's an incredible job. So why the city of Olympia? So let me brag about a few things about our organization. We have 96 minimum hours of training that is afforded to every single police officer. The state standard is 24 hours.
That's right.
So we are affording 4 times the minimum standard for the state of Washington. And that's really just the starting point for our officers. If they're interested in specialties and we can make additional training happen, we're going to do that for them. If they're moving into our detective division, it's possible that they have 80 hours on top of that 96 for a particular given year. So we are very, very passionate about training, and we believe that it makes us the best officers possible. We engage in a lot of reality-based training. It is definitely the way that training is moving in law enforcement. And it's excellent. Essentially, by engaging in scenario-based training, your brain doesn't know the difference between pretend and real. It counts it as a real experience. So by us really leveraging that training, we're creating incredibly competent officers. We have excellent equipment. For example, we recently transitioned to Taser 10s. This is the latest and greatest technology. It's fantastic. We also have our excellent body-worn cameras that have the ability to translate a number of languages, so we can really improve communications with folks in our community. We have a big enough police department where we have ample specialties, but we're not so big that you're a personnel number.
Yeah.
You're a name, you're a person. We know your names, we care about you. And a critical piece, especially when we're talking about officer wellness, is in really small departments. You may only have one other officer that you work with for instance, on a graveyard shift. So if you experience trauma and that person was sick that day, you're all alone. You don't have anybody to process with. In the city of Olympia, you have a beautiful small team that you're going to work with. You're going to know your partners incredibly well. You're going to know their stories, and you're going to develop the relationships to really lean into one another. And that helps with wellness tremendously.
Yeah.
I think earlier you talked about some of the characteristics of officers that of our officers, and those that you might want to bring on board here had to do with integrity. And I heard you say creativity. And I think there's that.
Emotional intelligence.
Yes, emotional intelligence. So if somebody kind of views themselves in that way, regardless of maybe what, they might have different backgrounds and different experiences, but to maybe come have a conversation with us.
Absolutely. Come and interact with us. Come ask questions. A lot of folks we're learning had an interest in law enforcement at some point along the line, and then life happened. And we have a 50-year-old individual that we're about ready to hire into the organization. And I'm so excited. This individual will bring all of that life experience into the organization. They will be an exceptional police officer because of all of that texture that they have due to their experience. And so there's some folks think that I'm too old. No, you're not. If you've been interested in this career, come and talk with us. We'll help you determine whether this is a good fit or not. We have some phenomenal bonuses right now for attracting highly qualified candidates. And so give us a call and speak to us. We have some great folks in our hiring and training division that would love to help bring you on board.
Well, there's your recruitment video right there, right? So you talked earlier that, this is all across the country. Cities across the country are really struggling to find officers to fill positions. And if you're thinking about it, Olympia is your place. Right? Olympia is your place. So thanks for that, Chief.
Absolutely.
So, Chief, you do carry a heavy responsibility for our communities and your officers' safety. So just tell us a little bit about you. Like, what do you do to recharge? What do you do to, help maintain your wellness, your happiness?
I think about how I can take care of our officers and our community. That truly is almost my every thought. But I jest. I love the outdoors, and I am so fortunate to have an incredible partner in my husband of 15 years, Tim. And I have 2 little girls, an 8-year-old and an 11-year-old, and they keep me very busy. So my kiddos definitely help with my work-life harmony because frankly, they demand to be seen and they demand to be cared for. And I'm so thankful for that perspective that they offer. So whenever we can, we like to be hiking or biking or just on the playground, anything where we can see trees and be breathing this beautiful Northwest air.
So, Chief, just really appreciated your time being with us here today. If I didn't say it up front, I think I did. But I'm really excited to have you as the Chief of Police of our Olympia Police Department. Is there, we've had a lot of conversations today and during this time, but is there anything we didn't talk about that you want to talk about? Here's your moment to bring in anything else that you want to talk about in this conversation.
I would just share that we're deeply committed to our community and to helping folks feel safe and helping meet the needs of our community. Everybody at the Olympia Police Department shares in that commitment, and they aim to provide excellent service. And so if there's ever a question about the way a call was handled or what it looked like, or you're looking for understanding the why, just reach out. Whether it's calling dispatch and asking to speak to a sergeant to understand more of the why behind our actions, you're welcome to do that. If it's following up and speaking with a member of the senior leadership team or the chief of police, we welcome that communication. So again, it is always our intent to make things better. And every police officer that I've interviewed, they join the Olympia Police Department because they care deeply and they want to make a difference.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all that you do. And thank you for all that all of our officers and our police department employees do in service to this community.
Thank you.
So, Stacey, with that, take us home.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone for listening. You can find this podcast everywhere you would normally get your podcast, but don't forget to like and subscribe. We have a video version at olytv3.com, or you can download our Oly TV app. It's really good. Let's see. Also, we want stay informed. Subscribe to our e-news groups at olympiawa.gov/subscribe, or follow us on social at City of Olympia everywhere. That's it.
All right. Thanks, Stacey. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.